cross. But at Jericho this valley has a width of about 22 kilometers 14 mi. It is through the valley's lower level with a width of about 0.5 to 3 kilometers 0.3 to 2 mi, that the Jordan turns and twists through dense thickets of thorns and thistles, vines and bushes, oleanders, tamarisks, willows, and poplars. Anciently, lions roamed in the proud thickets along the Jordan. J 49. 19. 50. 44. Zek 11. 3 wolves and jackals can still be found there. The summers are extremely hot and humid in this jungle, with temperatures climbing well above 38 degrees C 100 degrees F. And in the spring, as the snow melts on Mount Hermon, the Jordan floods thither. The upper level of the valley the Gore lies as much as 46 meters 150 feet above the Jordan's jungle and is separated from it by bare and eroded grey Shmal hills. The portion of the Gore extending some 40 kilometers 25 miles of the Sea of Galilee contains cultivated land and pastures. Aside from this, most of the Gore is uncultivated. However, in the time of Abraham and Lot, before the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, apparently much more of it was productive, especially in the vicinity of the Dead Sea. GE 13. 10, 11. The Jordan's shallow waters and its numerous rapids and whirlpools render it unnavigable. Reportedly, there are at least 60 places where it is possible to wade across the river when not at flood stage. In ancient times control of the river's fords was militarily advantageous, as they were the main means for crossing the Jordan. JG 3. 28. 12. 5, 6. Usually the portion of the Jordan below the Sea of Galilee averages from 1 to 3 meters 30 text to a acute meter longo, during 106 Jordan. He also had the privilege of baptizing Jesus, the perfect Son of God, there. Mount 3. 1, 5, 6, 13-17. Sea District of the Jordan. Jerim. A descendant of King David through Nathan, and an ancestor of Jesus' mother Mary. Luke 3. 23, 29-31 Jerim may have lived while Uzziah was king of Judah. Joachim Jke Middle.am. Apparently a Judean site fathered, or founded, by Raham. 1ch2. 44. Josek. A forefather of Jesus' mother Mary. Josek was a distant descendant of David through Nathan, and the 4th generation after Zerubbabel, placing him at about the end of the Hebrew scripture era. Luke 3. 23, 26, 27, 31. Joseph shortened form of Josipia meaning major add increase. Jehozadak increased. 1. The first of Jacob's 2 sons by his beloved wife Rachel. GE 35. 24 At his birth, Rachel, because of having been barren, exclaimed, God has taken away my reproach. She then called his name Joseph, saying, Jehovah is adding another son to me, that is, another son besides Dan and Naphtali, whom Rachel had accepted as her own, although they were born by her maidservant Bilhah. GE 30. 3-8, 22-24 At this time Jacob was evidently 91 years old. Compare GE 41. 46, 47, 53, 54. 45. 11. 47. 9. Some 6 years later Jacob left Paddan Aram with his entire family, to return to the land of Canaan. GE 31. 17, 18, 41 Upon learning that his brother Esau was coming to meet him with 400 men, Jacob divided off his children, wives, and concubines, placing Rachel and Joseph in the rear, the safest position. GE 33. 1-3 Joseph and his mother therefore were the last to bow before Esau. GE 33. 4-7. Thereafter Joseph resided with the family at Succoth, Shechem GE 33. 17-19, and Bethel respectively. GE 35. 1, 5, 6 Later, on the way from Bethel to Ephrath Bethlehem, Joseph's mother Rachel died while giving birth to Benjamin. GE 35. 16-19. Hated by his half-brothers. At the age of 17, Joseph, in association with the sons of Jacob by Bilhah and Zilpah, tended sheep. While doing so, he, although their junior, did not share in their wrongdoing, but dutifully brought a bad report about them to his father. GE 37. 2. Jacob came to love Joseph more than all his other sons, he being a son of his old age. Joseph's adherence to right may also have contributed to his becoming the special object of his father's affection. Jacob had a long striped garment, perhaps such as was worn by persons of rank, made for his son. As a result, Joseph came to be hated by his half-brothers. Later, when he related a dream that pointed to his gaining the preeminence over them, his brothers were incited to further hatred. A second dream even indicated that not only his brothers, but also his father and mother, apparently not Rachel, as she was already dead, but perhaps the household or Jacob's principal living wife would bow down to him. For relating this dream, Joseph was rebuked by his father, and the jealousy of his brothers intensified. The fact that Joseph spoke about his dreams does not mean that he entertained feelings of superiority. He was merely making known what God had revealed to him. Jacob may have recognized the prophetic nature of the dreams, for he observed the saying. GE 37. 3-11. On another occasion, Jacob, then at Hebron, requested that Joseph check on the welfare of the flock and his brothers while they were in the vicinity of Shechem. In view of their animosity, this would not have been a pleasant assignment for Joseph. Yet unhesitatingly he said, "Here I am." From the low plain of Hebron he then set out for Shechem. Informed by a man there that his brothers had left for Dothan, Joseph continued on his way. When they caught sight of him at a distance, his brothers began scheming against him, saying, "Look! Here comes that dreamer. And now come and let us kill him and pitch him into one of the water pits. Then let us see what will become of his dreams." O textoi acute miritra longo, Joseph 107 ancient papyrus documents indicating that Syrian slaves Joseph was half Syrian GE 29. 10. 31. 20 were valued highly in that land. As Joseph had been diligent in furthering his father's interests, so also as a slave he proved himself to be industrious and trustworthy. With Jehovah's blessing, everything that Joseph did turned out successfully. Potiphar therefore finally entrusted to him all the household affairs. Joseph thus appears to have been a superintendent, a post mentioned by Egyptian records in association with the large homes of influential Egyptians. GE 39. 2-6. Resist temptation. Meanwhile Joseph had come to be a very handsome young man. Consequently Potiphar's wife became infatuated with him. Repeatedly she asked him to have relations with her. But Joseph, trained in the way of righteousness, refused, saying, "How could I commit this great badness and actually sin against God?" This, however, did not end the danger for Joseph. Archaeological evidence indicates that the arrangement of Egyptian houses appears to have been such that a person had to pass through the main part of the house to reach the storerooms. If Potiphar's house was laid out similarly, it would have been impossible for Joseph to avoid all contact with Potiphar's wife. GE 39. 6-10. Finally Potiphar's wife took advantage of what she considered to be an opportune time. While there were no other men in the house, and while Joseph was caring for the household business, she grabbed hold of his garment, saying, "Lie down with me." But Joseph left his garment in her hand and fled. At that she began to scream and made it appear that Joseph had made immoral advances toward her. On her relating this to her husband, the enraged Potiphar had Joseph thrown into the prison house, the one where the king's prisoners were kept under arrest. GE 39. 11-20. In prison. It appears that initially Joseph was treated severely in prison. With fetters they afflicted his feet, into irons his soul came. PS 105. 17-18 later, however, the chief officer of the prison house, because of Joseph's exemplary conduct under adverse circumstances and the blessing of Jehovah, placed him in a position of trust over the other prisoners. In this capacity the prisoner Joseph again showed himself to be an able administrator by seeing to it that all the work was done. GE 39. 21-23. Thereafter, when two of Pharaoh's officers, the chief of the cupbearers and the chief of the bakers, were put into the same prison. Joseph was assigned to wait upon them. In the course of time, both of these men had dreams, which Joseph, after ascribing interpretation to God, explained to them. The cupbearer's dream pointed to his being restored to his position in 3 days. Joseph therefore requested that the cupbearer remember him and mention him to Pharaoh so that he might be released from prison. He explained that he had been kidnapped from the land of the Hebrews and had done nothing deserving of imprisonment. Probably so as not to cast a bad reflection on his family, Joseph chose not to identify the kidnappers. Subsequently he interpreted the baker's dream to mean that he would be put to death in 3 days. Both dreams were fulfilled 3 days later on the occasion of Pharaoh's birthday. This doubtless strengthened Joseph as to the certain fulfillment of his own dreams and aided him to continue enduring. By that time some 11 years had already passed since his being sold by his brothers. GE 40. 1-22. Compare GE 37. 2. 41. 1, 46. Before Pharaoh again restored to his position, the cupbearer forgot all about Joseph. GE 40. 23. However, at the end of 2 full years, Pharaoh had 2 dreams that none of Egypt's magic-practicing priests and wise men could interpret. It was then that the cupbearer brought Joseph to Pharaoh's attention. At once Pharaoh sent for Joseph. In keeping with Egyptian custom, Joseph, before going before Pharaoh, O textoi acute miritra longo, Joseph 108 made second ruler of Egypt. Pharaoh recognized in 30-year-old Joseph the man wise enough to administer affairs during the time of plenty and the time of famine. Joseph was therefore constituted second ruler in Egypt, Pharaoh giving Joseph his own signet ring, fine linen garments, and a necklace of gold. GE 41. 37-44, 46. Compare PS 105. 17, 20-22. This manner of investiture is attested by Egyptian inscriptions and murals. It is also of interest that from ancient Egyptian records it is known that several Canaanites were given high positions in Egypt, and that Joseph's change in name to Zaphenath-Paneah is not without parallel. Joseph was also given Asenath the daughter of Potipharah from Egyptian, meaning he whom Ra has given the priest of On as a wife.